Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to the new people that are coming to watch our show. We greatly appreciate it. This is Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show. One of my favorite creations, I guess. Manny, truth be told, I didn't mean to do that part. That's last week's NFL spreadsheet that I do. But anyway, for those that are curious, Manny is my Red Fox Labrador Retriever. And we named the pub after him because he is one of the coolest young guys on the planet. And we like betting dogs, and so does he. But seriously, that's a little corny. But welcome to the show, Chuck. You and I have been together a lot today doing videos and content production for our loyal viewers and our growing list of subscribers. So it's all good. How's the afternoon going for you?
Great so far. Yeah, looking forward to Wildcard Tuesday. So I can't wait for that. You know, I've written a lot about that already. Just since the teams were decided, it's just a fun time to have baseball turned on its head. We got 4 blue blood teams playing in do or die sudden death elimination games today and tomorrow. And I haven't done the math, but probably the Red Sox hurt these chances. Probably the 4 teams with the most rings, if you were to add them all together. So pretty fun. And, the Kershaw news is a bummer, but I mean, gosh, Cole, Eovaldi, Scherzer, Wainwright, goodness gracious. Yeah, that's a lot of Cy Youngs too.
Yeah, it is. Now, I guess some people are wondering, like, how in the world did Boston get the home field advantage since they finished the season with identical records? Well, that had to do with the tiebreaker, folks. Boston beat them 10-9 in the 19 regular season games that the Yankees and Red Sox played. And that is a big advantage for Boston, in my opinion. And it offsets the potential pitching mismatch. I do have a 4% unit play over at sportsmemo.com for, I believe it's just $9. I think they discounted it down to $9 so everybody could afford it. And, other than Dr. Chuck, who's one of the best MLB guys I have ever known, and I put my full emphasis on that. What's the word, Chuck? I can't say enough good things about this guy. Major League Baseball. You need a play for subscription for 3 days or something, or why don't you go over and get his MLB playoff subscription package and never miss a play. That way you get all access to everything, including prop bets, everything. It's not just the picks that are on the site for sale. It's all access, which means it's above and beyond everything that you see on the website. So I would highly recommend going over there and getting that and not worry about me. Oh. But in this game, Chuck, we went through the reason why it's in Boston. The Yankees had won 9 of the past 12 games between the teams after the Red Sox had won the first 7. So this has been oscillating quite a bit. It's a very passionate rivalry, and Boston will certainly be well prepared at Fenway Park. I don't even say that right, but it's fun to try.
That's pretty good, actually, right there. Yeah. So
there is one historical fact that comes to mind here. The 1978 tiebreaker game that these two teams played at Fenway is probably one of the greatest games that comes to memory between these two when it involved the playoffs, other than 2004 when they were down, Red Sox were down 3-0, and then we had the sweep. In fact, the Red Sox went on to sweep St. Louis in the World Series and win 8 straight. Only team to ever do it, and that ended the curse. It ended the curse
tomorrow.
Yep. So I think everybody kind of knows, Bucky Dent's 3-run homer lifted the Yankees to a victory. But that game was played for the AL East title before we had the wild card era. But the Yankees did go on to win the 78 World Series.
He's got a nice, colorful nickname in Boston that's not for live TV.
It's true. Yeah. I think the viewers in the chat room, people can probably figure it out on their own. In fact, some of the guys in the chat room probably will probably, I'm not encouraging it. Try not to type it. Try not to type it. Try not to give me guesses and say, John, is this right? Because I'm not going to answer that question. But speaking of foulness, we'll just kind of segue off the rails here a little bit. The word foulness, what in the world is going on with Jacksonville's head coach?
Oh,
I mean, goodness gracious.
Boy.
I mean, like,
boy, we got into that discussion, and it hits close to home. He's he's a fellow Ohio kid. I live right here in the center of Columbus, and this is the scene of the crime. I think he's got a lot of ways to talk himself out of this. I don't quite know what's going on here. I think you, Jesse, and I discussed just off air from our show earlier that because of an off-field incident in a Columbus bar, Urban Meyer is now the leader in the clubhouse in the sports books for first NFL coach to get fired this year. And and then there's the discussion and talk constant, especially here and abroad, everywhere else, that this might be, does he want this? Is this a please?
Did he sabotage it?
Please let me not have to get the USC job the Saban way, because I've already, Saban didn't come in to his Alabama job already having the I need to quit Florida because of my health, new job. I need to quit Ohio State because of my health, new job background. So, he could use a nice quick firing and just hop on over to Pasadena and like nothing happened. And I was fired. I was honest.
Max on record says, JR, you need a cool nickname.
JR?
Yeah.
It's Dallas. Come on.
That's about, JR Ewing.
Yeah.
We'll have to think about it, I guess. Maybe we have the chat room. But then I have the people that may not care for me that much. And that's okay. They can come up with some funny stuff.
Well, sometimes I try to match you with your Under Armour hat, and maybe you could be UAJR.
There you go. Or my
you would have
my Circa hat.
Yeah, exactly. So
CJR.
So I don't know what's going on with Urban, but it has
it's a shame.
It has not deterred me from back in the Jags. So I don't know, at this value you might get a better line than +4 if the strife continues, but it's
Wyatt Chapman.
I don't know if we should answer these questions, Wyatt, but I have my doctorate in FIP, right? Didn't we talk about this with Tony Finn? No.
Yep.
It's pharmaceuticals, and so I'm viewing videos with John and or constantly giving COVID vaccines and doing COVID tests, and it's exhausting on both ends.
And I used to work for a life science company after my career on Wall Street, so we kind of, it's not really the same, but clinical trials was my analyzing them using some of the analytics that I use now for betting football games.
I've been working out a way with John, and I've sent him a couple videos on how to pop into one of these shows in my office at work with my lab coat on and the whole spiel. And so it'll be ridiculous that it ever happens, but we'll see.
Let's see what else he.
Prez will still mock the shit out of me, but.
Chargers are good, I think he's saying. Kept my power on a W big bet last night. Guess that's why they called them the Chargers, huh?
So I had Chargers as a premium play from Jump last week. But if you didn't, and I saw this on Twitter too, if you didn't have the Chargers already and the game was postponed by lightning bolts and you didn't hop on them then, it was too bad. Because we were all given the sign as to who was winning that game.
Yes, that was no question. That was a sign, because I can't remember the last time I heard of
indoor game being postponed. Right?
Yeah, because of lightning in San Diego, where it hardly ever rains.
Yeah. Well, L.A.
yeah. Still, I was in Santa Barbara once for 31 days, and it did not rain.
Wow.
And that's normal. It gets a little, 31 days, you don't get tired of it. But I can see like a whole year where it's 80, and then it's between 57 and 59 in the morning, and then 80 again, and it repeats. That could, I mean, how many rounds of golf can you play?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to work on the nickname. I never really thought I needed one.
Yeah, we'll come up with something.
Like excellence, maybe.
Yeah, I like
Excalibur.
that. Excalibur. We'll end up just calling you Callie. But I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you think, John, about this pitching matchup. You think?
Oh yeah, let's get this back on the rails here.
You think Cole's got the edge? You think Cole's got the edge? Do you trust Gary Cole on the road in this spot?
He has been a little shaky to me. That last 3 starts, especially the last one, and I actually played against him in that last one. Wasn't so hot, and looking at the very deep metrics, like Baseball Savant, for example, it seems like his spin rates are down, just modestly. I'm not saying it's the foreign substance. It's just fatigue. It's a 162 game season. Granted, he didn't pitch 35 starts like a lot of other guys did, but still, when you throw that hard and you throw that often, it takes its toll. Because I can remember when the Phillies won it, and now I can't remember the name of the closer, but he was on fumes. His fastball was at least, if I remember right, 7 to 8 miles an hour slower than it was during the regular season.
Didn't you guys have Wagner then?
It was after that.
Okay.
Brad Lidge.
The title one. And yeah.
So he's the only one I think that never blew a save for an entire season. 48, I think, consecutive saves that season, something like that. It was pretty ridiculous, but the velocity was down like big time. And those last few outs, I mean, if he was hitting 85, he might have been hitting 85, but it certainly wasn't 92 like it was in the days of July and before that. So that's why I put that. But I think Nathan Eovaldi has had a spectacular career he's had a pretty damn good career, but he's had a spectacular season that's pretty much going unnoticed. Yeah. And I started digging into it. This year he's allowed a 253 batting average, ho-hum.
Former Yank.
290. What's that?
Former Yank. Yeah.
Yes, former Yank from 2015 and 16, where those 2 years weren't all that good, and that's why I guess they let him go.
Yeah.
But 294 on base percentage, 402 slug, 696 OPS, all significantly below his career averages. He posted an exceptional career best 87.8 mile per hour exit velocity, and also a career best 36.4 best hard hit percentage. Other than his rookie season in 2011, Eovaldi generated more ground ball outs this season at 42% of batted balls in play than at any other time. What else do I have here in my notes? 2011, which was his rookie year, he recorded 41.6, which is lower, but I discounted that because he only pitched 34 innings as compared to 182 this season. His ground ball ratio of in the 2020 season, it was 1.02, which is ho-hum. But this year, monumentally improved it to 0.73. And against that Yankees lineup, the majority of them, if not all of them, have uppercut swings. Having a sinking, running movement on your pitches is a good recipe to get those guys out or make it, drive the ball into the ground, making it an easy fielding play.
Oh, yeah.
So do you think that's enough to overcome the talents of a Garrett Cole?
Yeah, without giving up, taking a side, et cetera, in this game, I mean, you're going to get love from me for those that have all access baseball or have been with my baseball packages throughout the years. You're going to know that it's going to be pretty common. I back someone that's got a 2.79 FIP compared to a 3.79 ERA. I throw out the newspaper numbers, and it's tough because the Yankee lineup can be so good, and then they can be so terrible, and it's what you're going to catch. I think I don't know. There's so many things that fascinate me about this game. Like what about, let alone the starting pitching matchup? What about the fact that the game has evolved to the point where in a do or die game, Aaron Boone and Alex Cora are leading off with Anthony Rizzo and Kyle Schwarber. Like that's where the game has changed, to the point where a couple of guys that are cleanup hitters for 100 years are now coming up from the left side to lead off a game. I mean, it's just baseball has changed, and we're here to help you adapt with that. But it's just some of that stuff's wild.
Yeah, it is.
So Tony Finn's going to come on here and he's going to back Garrett Cole. Sounds like. Where is that guy?
He's in a love affair with that. I'm just checking here on Tony Mejia, who will be joining us. I think Rob is out today.
Okay.
So he'll be popping on here pretty soon. It's 4:41. We don't bust anybody because they're even 10 minutes late, let alone a minute. But he'll be coming on soon. He'll have some good insight on this game too. I kind of lean towards the over in this game, but I don't have an official play. If that would be one scenario Rob Vito and I went through was that first 5 under was his pick for the show yesterday. So first 5 under, 4.5. So we did this a couple of times on the show this past season, where if we played the under with 2 elite starters like we have, and say the final at the end of 5 innings was say 2-1 or less, I then bet the over in live game because it's lower, but you have a much cheaper price relative to the bullpens, and both these bullpens are vulnerable. The Yankees have had waves of success and then waves of just like, who the hell are these guys? And then Boston the same way. So I think that's what I'm going to do. If it's 3 runs or less in the first 5, I'm going over in game.
Oh, absolutely. It's never a bad strategy. Plus, and like you said, over. I'm never going to argue with someone taking a contrarian betting strategy, because that's the way you win. And that would be the over in this spot, because, people are picturing a grinded out, but one thing that is not the same that used to be, that kind of bums me out that it isn't, and I hate, is that they've taken away the ability for the starting pitcher, for the managers to Joe Madden their lineup. You bring someone in, he has to face 3 people. I don't like this. And it ruins strategy, and it definitely lends towards overs and not unders. That's for sure.
Yep.
Because if you can't, if Cora and Boone can trump the fact that you brought someone in, he walked to the first batter, and you're like, well, I didn't want him facing this next guy. Well, he's got to face 2 more guys. So
that's true.
No, I don't like that for any kind of over or under. But for over, especially late game, you're catching in game, you're going to get a 2-1 game after 5, and you're going to get a 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, Dr. Chuck he's up over 300 units this Major League Baseball season. 300. I don't think I averaged 100 for 3 seasons. So I guess Dr. Chuck is going to be right back. But I mean, seriously, guys, if you're going to buy a Sports Memo baseball subscription, of course, it'd be great if you bought mine. But he is really, really good at baseball, and I think you would do just fine making that investment in yourself to have him working for you starting tonight. So there is Tony Mejia. Dr. Chuck just had to sign off for a second.
All right.
But I did a couple shows with him today. We did with Jesse Shaw. We did the college football show for Sports Memo TV, and also the NFL show for Sports Memo TV. So all good. How's your weekend?
Decent weekend. Not the results I wanted in college. I wasn't taking a bath, but it was a lot of missed opportunities. I had correlations with games like Ole Miss saying with Alabama and that overhitting, and you lose 2 in one spot. But I mean, I won a couple of those too. Lost something that really doesn't happen very often, where you're sweating out a total and you lose it on a safety. That happened in Mississippi State and Texas A&M, so that was fun. NFL was really good. It was a good day out. It would have been a monster day outside of New England and Tampa Bay, and I didn't anticipate it being so rainy. That hurt. And then I'm not a big whiner about calls, But I just thought that was a game where the officiating played too large a role, too many penalties on Tampa that could have gone either way. And then that bogus, and I truly say a bogus reversal of a fumble on that catch very early in the game where it looked like New England had fumbled inside their own 25, and it was a catch, and the replay showed it was a catch, even though he bobbled it, he regained control. Made a football move. It was called a fumble on the field, and then you reverse it and say no, it wasn't. That's New England nonsense, as far as I'm concerned. So
I think that
really changed that game because
it did.
That's all it takes. And then Devin White had a pick six that if he catches late in that fourth quarter it was in their own red zone.
Yeah.
Devin White can fly. So just one of those games that got away. Was a 5%. I really loved the Tampa Bay to cover 6.5. Had it as one of my contest picks as well. Fortunately, I did decently in the contest. Another 3 in the bucket. So we're up to 13 through the first 4 weeks. I saw the first prize of the quarterly is 18. So there are at least 4 people out there with 18-2 records. Kudos to them. I mean, to go 90% at any stretch of the NFL season, any 4-week stretch is fantastic. So,
who was it? Was it that Dead Money bets entry?
I know there were 4 of them.
Because he was 15-0 going in, which is pretty insane. I haven't been looking for the standings.
Just the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll look at the names at the halfway point. See, start tracking that. But I
just wanted to see the standings here.
I had them up earlier. Let me see if they're still.
And you pulled it off the Circus site.
Actually, and we can plug the Winner's Circle Proxy, which is our friend Kelly in Vegas's operation. They have the leaderboard set up quite nicely. I tweeted it out. So if you look on my Twitter page, for our viewers, if they're interested in tracking that, there's a link to that. It's the leaderboard is updated through Circa, obviously, but it's there. All the rankings are there. So just plugging away though. 13 out of 20 is 65%. Can't balk at that. You know, it is what it is.
No way. Yeah, that's great.
If you do that for 18 weeks, you'll place in the money. I don't know if
absolutely
that's good enough to win. I think the winner this year of one of these contests, you got to hit the 70 mark. But 65%.
Well, that would be the first time ever, I think, because Las Vegas Chris was second. And I actually forget what he was, but I can during the show I can actually look that up too. Back in the dark ages, there was a couple of Wager Talk guys that were in the top 5 at 58.5.
Right.
But that just shows the power of technology and information and making us a little bit smarter than we once were, I suppose. Or it's the number of entries is so high that someone is just hot for the whole season, and has the backdoor covers and the ones that they shouldn't have won, and it all goes like that. But
that's what the goal is. You only need to win it once.
It's true. Yeah.
How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. Saturday I had a 5% win on Arizona State that demolished UCLA. I was glad to see that. I believe I'm still number 1 at Sports Memo in college football. It's 68, I guess, right now. So we came down from the clouds a little bit with I think it was a 5-3 total for the week. I had plays on Thursday and Friday. I had Mississippi that lost along with you. I was definitely loving that play. In fact, on the show, I went out on a limb and said, for pizza money, do the money line.
It just goes to show you how games can break at any point, especially when you have little margin for error against Alabama, because you drive 80 plus yards and you get to inside the Alabama red zone. I believe they were inside the 10, right, on 4th and 1.
Yep.
And then you can't come through, can't convert, and all of a sudden Alabama fields itself and is going to clamp it down the rest of the way. And here are the specifics on that. 83 yards you go on your opening drive, Ole Miss, and you convert a couple of fourth downs, I believe. But the last one, they shut you down. They held the Alabama defense, that is, held Ole Miss to 26 first half yards after that drive. And that was it. That's the game. And it allowed Bryce Young to settle in. It allowed Bill O'Brien and Doug Marrone to methodically run the football and keep that offense off the field and the defense fresh and attacking, and that's it. And if they're down 7-0, all of a sudden there's game pressure. There's, the nerves at home. That crowd is all of a sudden not as, bullying as they were. And there's a settle, you can get unsettled and uneasy. But, props to Alabama, they clamped down. And they're going to eat up at Zach Calzada based on what we've seen out of A&M and their offensive line. And Calzada and the fact that he's with no time to throw, really doesn't find a rhythm whatsoever. So very erratic. But we just talked about Alabama A&M. We just talked about Penn State and Iowa on the Wager Talk College Football Show. So what do you make of Penn State and Iowa?
I like the line movement so far. I was a little surprised in the rankings, and the rankings don't mean anything.
They dumped them?
Yeah. I mean, but what the rankings don't show is that you still have a team called Ohio State, which I still believe is in the Big Ten, which I still believe is a team that Iowa and Penn State are going to have to get better to beat them. And maybe Ohio State is flawed by that one loss, but it wasn't in the Big Ten and it wasn't in that division that Penn State is in.
Right.
So if Penn State would win this game, then it all comes down to that. So to say that Iowa is the fourth or third best team and Penn State 4, maybe a little bit ahead of itself, unless, if Penn State wins this, then it all comes down to Penn State or Ohio State. If they beat Ohio State at Ohio State, I think
you got Michigan too, even though it's at home. Michigan's a player this year.
Yeah,
but it is one of those things where Penn State has a much tougher road ahead, and Iowa, if they get past this game and it's at home, you got to. I think they go to Madison, but really they've got clear sailing until facing whoever gets out of that tougher division in the Big Ten title game.
Yeah, and I agree. I did do a play earlier this week, and it's a good segue for this one. I mentioned that we would talk about this on today's show, on yesterday's Manny's Pub show with Rob Vino. And I'm telling you right now, Michigan is going down.
The line certainly tells you that.
Yeah.
I'm still doing my line, so I haven't seen all of them, but I had my initial lines up, and then I was flipping channels today, and one of the shows, I caught the line. I had Michigan, Nebraska, Michigan laying 7.
I had 7.5. Yep.
3.5. So it's half of that. That usually gets my spidey sense up.
Nebraska's going to have to play clean. They could have a much better record if they didn't make some really bonehead mistakes. And Scott Frost has to be like, this is a statement game. This would not only secure his job, but it would put Nebraska back in the landscape nationally, and would help so much with recruiting. Especially upending Michigan off to a 5-0 start.
Yeah.
The one thing that I thought was quite interesting was that coming into this game, I have some notes here. The Wolverines had run the ball in 74% of their snaps going into that game in Madison. They completely changed the strategy so much that McNamara, who's the starting quarterback, he hadn't thrown more than 16 pass attempts in any of the Michigan's first 4 games. Against Wisconsin, he had 17 completions. And I thought that was remarkable. Their 5-star recruit, J.J. McCarthy, played in the game. He was very effective. He had a rushing touchdown on 4th down. And suddenly I'm realizing on Monday morning, I always look at the games first before I check where the lines are, because the opening line doesn't really mean anything Sunday night, at least, of any meaning. And I was thinking, like, holy mackerel, like Harbaugh's really getting it done with this new coaching staff and bringing in who he wanted, getting back to the smash mouth football that he was known for, especially in the first couple years. He's never beaten Ohio State, but still. And I thought, my goodness, now Michigan is definitely on the map because they're so diversified and they can show up with any offensive scheme. They won because, I mean, Wisconsin is a very poor offensive team. We know that now. If we didn't know it already, we know it now. But their defense is not, it's not porous. It's not Swiss cheese.
Right.
I mean, they bring the load. So to see this line at 3.5, I was like, you kidding?
No, I was very surprised, especially since, the books have really dumped on Nebraska. As soon as I think they were excited about Frost and his return, but as soon as things went south, was that they've gone. This is year 4, so 4-8, 5-7, 3-5, and very early on, I've got all their lines in front of me because I've got a steal in front of me. The very early returns, I guess it was a rebuilding season. So, but they were still getting, like, by the end of that season, they were still getting only eight at Iowa, which is Iowa's pretty good. So and they had won in that stretch after losing their first 6 or 7 games of that season. They won 4 out of 5 going into Iowa. So then you go into 2019, you expect them they were nationally ranked entering the 2019 season. They struggle with South Alabama out of the gate, and then they lose at Colorado, and they haven't been ranked since.
Yeah.
And and the odds makers have dumped on them since then as well. The point where they opened last season almost 4 touchdown underdogs at Ohio State. So, I don't think that the books are fans of Adrian Martinez, of Scott Frost, of this particular Nebraska team. So, yeah, I'm stunned that after the demolition of a really down Northwestern team, because half of their team used up that transfer portal over this past summer, that this garners that much respect against the Michigan team that has really done what they've been expected to all season, and has done it with guys that are going to be dudes at the next level. Like Quorum's a hell of a running back. Haskins, the other running back, is pretty good. You've got guys on the defensive line that are obviously going to play in the NFL. The quarterbacks have been serviceable. They're doing it without Ronnie Bell, who unfortunately got hurt, the wide receiver in the first game of the season at Western Michigan after catching 2 tremendous catches along the sideline. One a bomb, one that didn't count, but it was like a one-handed catch, and he was obviously their best receiver. But yeah, it was a Michigan team that has really come together. You mentioned their coaching staff. It's all younger guys, so they have kind of harped on a new energy that has really paid off. So to see them only 3.5-point dogs at Lincoln, it's almost like a trap line. I may fall into that trap anyway, but because I do like this Michigan team. They came through for me on a 5% that Washington game, but I was counting on Washington not being up to speed at the receiver because they were down 3 of their top 5 receivers entering that game. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in this first half. It might be a good spot to get into the second half based on what happens in that first.
Hey, can you shoot me the link for the circle? I'm having problems having it come up. And while you do that, I can actually bring up last year.
Here, hold on a second. Let me see if I can access that through my Twitter, but I have to do it on the.
Yeah, that's where I found it. But down the page, you do a query on it, has a fatal error.
Oh, okay. Then it might be down. Then that's all it is.
Oh, that could be too.
Yeah, yeah. If it came up, then that's all it is. It's down for now. But yeah, that's the right page because I saw it and I tried to refresh it. I saw that error too.
Yep. We'll just we'll wait to see if it comes up during the show here. But yeah, 18-2, whoever that was.
There are 4 people setting the pace.
Well, actually, I scrape every single pick every single week. So I could actually, let's see what I do have here.
What are you looking for? Just the names of the people who are up?
Yeah, I wanted to see if it was the guy.
That I can probably get through a little internet search or Twitter query. Let's see.
Let's see. I want to sort ascending.
Right.
Well, actually, it would help if I looked at the circa. First 5 was 14-1 at the Super Contest, tied with Tony D. They both went 5-0 in week 3. They had first 5 had Atlanta, Detroit, Minnesota, the Colts, and Baltimore. Oh, the top of my head, that sounds like 2 and 3, doesn't it? Atlanta didn't cover. Detroit didn't cover because Chicago won. Minnesota played Seattle. No, they didn't.
No, Minnesota lost to Cincinnati.
Okay, so that's 0 and 3. Colts won 1 and 3. Baltimore. Baltimore did what? They did. They played the Broncos, and they won, right? Yeah.
Looks
so
like
2 and 3.
Something Madden survivors, Stoney, Mr. Wiggles have 18.
Yeah, and Tony D went 1 and 4, so it wasn't him. And what'd you say the name was?
Stoney, and Mr. Wiggles. Yep. So 18. Here's what it is. I mean, that's again, that's a great pace. I think if you get 18 out of 20, you're only going to do that one set of the 20 games. So there's going to be natural regression. But that's what it really takes. You need a quarter where you hit 80 to 90%.
Yep, that's for sure. They only paid the top 3 as well. So I mean, 4,108 entries in the circa. That becomes a challenge. But we all like it. Now in the baseball game tonight, I was talking to Dr. Chuck about, I think you were on the show when we did it the first time with Tony Finn doing under first 5 with 2 elite pitchers. And it's safe to say we have 2 elite pitchers going tonight. So
I mean,
it's under.
I'll dispute the Eovaldi being elite, but he's been a gamer and he's had the Yankees number 5 out of 6 times this season.
Yep. And I'll go into why I like him, and I won't repeat myself too much since I had gone over the pitching with him earlier. But if this game is 2-1 or 3 runs, 3-0 or less runs in total at the end of 5, I'm going to be real tempted to bet the over. Because this game feels like an over to me. It's in Fenway, but then Dr. Chuck looks at those weather metrics, the ADV and the other one, and that definitely points to an under type of game. The ball's just not going to carry. It is that time of year. But there's some big bats on both teams. There's 2 bats on one each that aren't playing. Martinez and LeMahieu, right? So that kind of offsets one another. But I mean, it's the showdown we wanted to see as baseball fans. There's no question this is what we wanted to see. And I'm sure Red Sox fans will be well prepared, well informed, well hydrated.
They'll be well hydrated. The latter, nobody's disputing that. I mean, look, the Yankees had their opportunity to have this in the Bronx. Fumbled it away against the Rays.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're crushed. They just come off 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, the first sweep at Fenway in 5-6 years. They needed it. They got clutch performances from everybody in that series outside of fielding, where they dropped 2 pop-ups in that 8th inning, back to back, and then they got bailed out. And then Aaron Judge bailed them out. We'll see what happens. Judge, Stanton, Gallo, those Rizzo, those guys have to get going. And then on the other side, Devers comes in off a big hit, and their comeback win the other night. I went 4-0 on Sunday, so that's good. And I'm sitting there watching football and figured the Sale game had gotten away. The Yankees were scoreless, and then the other two had hit easily. And then I look down and I see the Red Sox not only have the lead, they are now covering the run line play. So was very happy to see that. And I rarely am in a position where I'm rooting for the Red Sox. But I just thought that Sale laying 1.5 in the game they had to win at close to even money was too good to pass up. And then they were down, what was it, like 5-1 early? I think they won 7-5 or 8-6. But bottom line, yeah, you hit it on the head. These are the two teams you wanted to see. Toronto and Seattle had great seasons, but and it would have been fun to see chaos ensue if they had we had a 3-way tie or a 4-way tie.
4-way tie.
But we'll stick with this and take Yankees Red Sox at Fenway for all the one-game marbles.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to say the least. And then you also have the Dodgers and St. Louis.
And you know what I'll say? I like this stuff because I'm fairly progressive on sports. So long as I've been watching this. I may look younger, but I've been watching sports since I was 10, and I'm in my 40s now. So I'm down with some traditional stuff, but at the same time, give me robot umps, give me robot refs of any kind. Once we perfect the technology where you can just buzz down and use instant replay, and give me an expanded playoff fields. Give me wild card teams because. If you're a baseball purist, and there are, I think, purists, there are purist fans in every sport, but baseballs are the ones that take it most to heart. If you don't like tonight and the one-game playoff, because you're a purist and you long for the days where we had two teams make the playoffs, the NL East and NL West teams, then don't watch tonight. Keep yourself away from it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because it's fun and it adds to the drama.
There's part of me, I really like the Dodgers team as a whole. I mean, how can you not? But there's something about this St. Louis team that if I'm a Dodger fan, scares me to death. They have a history of playing the right way. Sure. And they certainly did play the right way down the stretch because they had the most difficult schedule of all the playoff teams that are in the playoffs now by far, and they just tore them up. That 18-game stretch was not against the weakest teams in the league, like the Phillies had lined up and teed up for them to win the division, which they didn't take advantage of. Boston had a very easy schedule down the stretch. They didn't take advantage of every game. I think they lost 2 out of 4 to Baltimore. That would have, not changed things how they are right now. It still would have been in Boston, but still, I mean, St. Louis was in a must-win situation, if you can call it that, probably 25 games ago.
No, they were, and then they rattled up.
Look at them.
19?
Yeah.
18, 19 straight, something like that.
Yep.
So, I mean, look, I wouldn't fade Scherzer in this spot, and it's on the road for St. Louis. Wainwright's had a hell of a year. I was on the fade Wainwright bandwagon. Early this season, I had to get off that real quick.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at the wagertalk.com odds page, which is a good one, folks. If you want a good odds page, has the spreads and the money lines, of course, and it has team totals and totals, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, first and second half. It's pretty cool. And I'm noticing that 54% of the tickets are on the over, yet 56% of the money is on the under. So when I see something like that, my in-game thought to bet over is diminished. It truly is.
Well, the 8.5 was available yesterday to bet the under, and now it's gone pretty much completely, unless you're buying points offshore at like a penny.
Yeah, Heritage and Penny right now are minus 135, 132 respectively. And we have 57% of the tickets on the Yankees, 72% of the money. It's getting a little frothy.
Oh yeah, because it was
That's for sure.
Yesterday. So the money's coming in on Garrett Cole and the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if it hits minus 150, I think I'd be tempted to do like a 50% of my 4% play on Boston pre-flop and then see how it goes in game.
Yeah. We shall see.
I just think there's value there. I might be dead wrong with the play, but if I do that kind of betting over the course of the baseball playoffs, I think we'll come out okay. You don't lay 240 with anybody, even if it is Scherzer, but I didn't see what the minus 2.5 run line was. I mean, you think if Dodgers win, it's not going to be by a run.
Yeah, so you have no interest in the plus 1.5 at even money or close to even money for the Cardinals. You just, if you're back in the Cardinals, you're taking the Cardinals getting you $2, $2+.
Yeah, if I was going to take the Cardinals, I would just do the money line outright.
Yeah, getting 220 to 210 and up. Gotcha.
Yeah, because as we said, I don't think it's a one-run game. It doesn't feel like that. Adam Wainwright's a little bit older than 30 years of age too.
Oh yeah, Wainwright's what, 39? I want to say.
Yeah, he's Tom Brady-ish.
Yeah, he's not quite 40, but he's getting there.
So I guess that'll be it for baseball here. You wanted to go over a college football game you have on your radar? I kind of gave mine out already with Nebraska, and I did a video on it, and I recommended Moneyline. And I did that one yesterday, and the Sports Manual TV shows are really starting to get some traction. I was pleasantly surprised to wake up and see myself at 1,200 views, and grateful for that. It's taken a while, but the whole key, as you know, Tony, is consistency. You wake up every day, you put content out, and you consistently are reminding people that you are providing valuable content, meaningful content, most of all, winning content. And that was good. Now, it's nothing compared to what you guys get at Wager Talk, but we're kind of using the same model. And there was a day, probably 8 years ago that Wager Talk was in the same boat. So I'm hoping to, keep trading in the boat for a bigger yacht, and then maybe a cruiser or something, and then an aircraft carrier, and we'll do our best to catch up. Well, it's not about catching up. It's just about getting closer to the high level that Wager Talk is at. I think that's fair to say.
No doubt. Well, I mean, we can talk any college game you want. I've got my initial numbers down.
All right.
We talked. If you want to talk,
tell me about Iowa and Penn State, and any thoughts from the Wager Talk Today show that you want to mention from the guys who were on the show.
I would say the lean is the under, because the number's a little lower than I anticipated. I had it at 43.5. I believe it is now at 41.5. They're really not giving you room for error. And what we've seen out of Penn State and Iowa recently, Scott Docterman at The Athletic had a really nice piece. If you guys are subscribers to The Athletic, check it out. It just details how, while they don't play for a trophy like the Floyd of Rosedale or things like that are in the Big Ten, Penn State and Iowa have put on some entertaining shows over the last 15 years. And yet Penn State has dominated the series, which really doesn't happen to Kirk Ferentz very often, but they've won 6 of 7. And Iowa won last season. And Iowa won last season, what was it, 41-21. So kind of exercise some demons there. And 2 of the last 4 meetings have gone decisively over. The other 2, 21-19 and 17-12. And I think that's you can only see the high side prevailing here if, as they've been able to do, Iowa is able to generate turnovers and create short fields and keep the pressure off Petrus. And I where I stand on Clifford. He's been pretty good this year, but I really don't trust him. And Iowa has been able to make all of the quarterbacks on their schedule look very uncomfortable and erratic. They killed Tagovailoa last week. I mean, turned him over time after time to the point where it looked like he was throwing them the ball.
7 turnovers.
Yep. Iowa State, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, and he threw a costly interception. They were able to generate a turnover right, a scoop and score from Brees Hall right against their own end zone where he's running the football. They just basically took it from him. That Iowa defense, it's you can't say they're fortunate. You can't say they're opportunistic. They create those turnovers.
Yeah.
So it'll be on the road for Penn State. So I agree that Iowa should be favored despite the serious history favoring Penn State. And I think the talent level favors Penn State slightly because they have a couple of more playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I think a lot of those guys have grown up, and you do have to tip your hat to Mike Yursich, who Rob Bino called him in the preseason. Said I think the Penn State offense is gonna look rejuvenated, and so far we've seen it. They've beaten pretty good defenses. Wisconsin obviously have excellent defense, and they dodged a real bullet in that game because Wisconsin was so bad in the red zone. But Penn State made the plays in the late third quarter and fourth quarter and made those stands in the red zone that defense did in the first half to win that game on the road. And now this is their first road game since. So it'll be interesting to see how they've grown up from that game because they've been able to generate confidence through that tight win against Auburn and a really nice performance against Indiana that we all had saw coming. So, really good game. And then I made the joke on Wager Talk, not Wager Talk today, but on the college football show that this will be they weren't that good anyway bowl because the loser of this is going to get roasted over the coals as overrated top 5 team, and then the winner's not going to get much respect unless it's a blowout.
Well, I can see that. I think it ties into what I said earlier that lurking is Ohio State, who last week I think was ranked 18th or 19th, and I don't know anyone personally that does the voting, but I almost wish we'd have a poll where they would rank it as best they could. Maybe even using some kind of form of power rating, knowing that you have teams that are coming up on the schedule that would prevent you from being a top 5 team or a top 10 team, and you get these teams, and and I can have egg on my face, Tony, with saying that Michigan's going down this Saturday, but there's a number 9 team that may not be a number 9 team, and it just may have been just one hell of a game they played against a very weak Wisconsin team.
Right, and I mean, is it an indictment of us, or are we just all pompous because look, we see Alabama and Georgia. We understand those are the best 2 teams in the country, and it's gonna be tough to touch them. But like teams like Iowa, Penn State, Cincinnati, that are they're not that good. They're undefeated, but they're not the Crimson Tide and the Dugs. Well, duh. So it is what it is. It'll be fun to see how this all shakes out. Same Oklahoma, undefeated, not that impressive. Rattlers falling from the number 1 pick to you might not go in the first round. And is it deserved? I mean, sure, but we're also coming out of a pandemic, or now this is the first year where we let fans back into stadiums, and it's October 5th, and we're already crapping on 95% of college football teams, including some undefeated ones.
Yeah, I think there's 5 left. Is that right? I mean, there's probably more than that, but
Penn State, Iowa, Cincinnati. No, there's got to be more than 5. Alabama, Georgia.
Well, let's. I was just running a couple queries in the database. Teams that are coming off a game where they forced 7 or more turnovers didn't return much of anything worthwhile.
Off the top of your head, do you know how many undefeated NFL teams there are?
Maybe that's what I was thinking. There's not 5 left in the NFL, is there?
No.
Right.
It's one. The Arizona Cardinals, only undefeated team in the NFL, which is crazy because we're 4 weeks completed in that. They're going to pop the 73 Dolphins pop in the champagne early.
They can drink for the whole season as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. Yeah, the Cardinals aren't staying undefeated.
I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, I mean,
college football teams.
Off the top of my head, definitely Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Iowa, Penn State, Alabama, Georgia. So,
and how many is
Oregon
that?
Went down. Ohio State's gone down. Coastal Carolina's undefeated.
Yep, they're the real deal this year, and I was so glad that Cincinnati did beat Notre Dame. I don't like hate Notre Dame. I could be nasty and say Brian Kelly's the all-time winningest head coach in Notre Dame history, but he hasn't won a national championship like the other next four guys on that wins list did. And some of them won multiple national championships.
Yeah.
And he really hasn't been
done
close.
A pretty good job.
He's done a good job, right.
It's a different landscape now. I mean, like before Notre Dame, I mean, even though they still have the contract with NBC, but before, like when I was growing up in the 80s, it was Notre Dame was the team in the Northeast. It was Notre Dame and Penn State. That's it. Those are the teams that you kind of followed. And then everything else was regional. And Notre Dame was one of the few national programs. So Brian Kelly's been able to succeed and actually resurrect that program because they were down there for a while without a conference affiliation and essentially running the same program, the same modus operandi of 60s, 70s, 80s Notre Dame team, which is tough to do in the 21st century.
That is for sure. I'm just saying that they like the conference standings here. Oklahoma's 5-0.
Right, Oklahoma's.
Michigan. So one. Why don't I just pull out the whole?
UTSA, I think, is undefeated. I want to say that they are.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 of them. BYU, Michigan, Oklahoma, Cincinnati, Penn State, Iowa, Georgia, Alabama.
Did UTSA lost? I'm trying to think of who they.
I guess they did.
All right.
I believe they did.
Let me see. Because I know they beat Illinois and they beat. I forget who they played. Let me see.
Yeah, it could be them pulling it from. The major conferences too. That's what I'm trying to be careful that I'm not doing.
Here they go. Their schedule is Illinois. They beat them. They beat Lamar. They beat Middle Tennessee. They beat Memphis and they beat UNLV. Yeah, they're undefeated.
So they're 5-0 too. So I was looking at it from a the top 5.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know even if they've made the national rankings, but they are undefeated.
That's good for them.
Yeah, I mean that program looked past the eye test last year, and definitely did against Illinois, which I know a lot of people were wrong because Illinois beat Nebraska, and then that was a down spot coming back home to face a team that was better than them, go on paper at least, and they ended up losing that game. So,
I found another one.
Another undefeated team?
Wake Forest.
Oh, that's right. Yep, that's absolutely right.
That's kind of nuts. So now we have Coastal Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, Georgia, San Diego State, Wyoming, BYU, UTSA. I love their mascot too. They're still the Roadrunners, aren't they?
They are the Roadrunners.
Yeah, I got a favorite cartoon character of all time. That's who the Washington football team, the Washington Roadrunners. That'd be the best mascot in the world.
Give me the Red Hogs.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change though, no matter how much I try to contact the guy.
You know who is incredibly wasteful though is Oregon. We should be talking about Oregon. They have that landmark victory over Ohio State, and they handed that Stanford game away. Just basically said, here you go, 99% win probability at one point. 2 false starts, that roughing penalty on Thibodeau, which was it was a little ticky-tacky, but it was accurate. And then allowing the untimed down, the touchdown. And then losing in overtime. Just fumble that game away. And I was on Stanford. I was on Oregon laying 8, so I would have lost anyway. But they were down early and then took a commanding lead and kind of sat on it late because they could have pushed it to 10 and chose not to. And that's what happens in college when you try to play the clock instead of playing your opponent. You put yourself in positions where you can get caught.
Yep, absolutely. And that my 5% in the Pac-12 was on Arizona State, and that was a play that worked out pretty well.
Yeah,
covered by 23.5, and we sweat. People don't realize that we sweat when we give out 5%ers because we know people are going to buy it. They're not going to listen to our suggestion that you treat this just as you would a 4% bet, except you're taking 5% of your bankroll. So if you have $10,000 that your life is not going to change if you would lose half of it or all of it, then you're betting 400 on a 4%, 500 on a 5%, not 800, not 1,200. But that's one of the reasons that guys like you and I worry, because you don't want to give out a play that's going to lose, and then somebody did something that was irresponsible, I guess is the word. I don't want to sound like a father here, but sometimes you just got to use your head.
We can control, and that's deeming it worthy of whatever you want to invest on it. But it's ultimately up to you to do the actual investing. But the recommendation has to be sound. I skipped on college 5% plays this past Saturday. There are a couple that I am considering here, and then my NFL 5% plays were the two ironically that I lost in the circuit contest because I went 3 for 5, and I gave out the Patriots and the Bengals. Slow start for Cincinnati doomed them, and I still say that the Buccaneers should have beaten should have beaten New England by 10 to 12 points. I thought the line was right, but
I agree.
It like with those games like that? There are points where you basically look at a line and say, okay, that's kind of maxed out. So to me, you couldn't give out Tampa Bay minus 7.5 if you're a book and want action both ways. It's got to be 6.5 or 7, which is essentially what they did. So it's like a pot committed line, and then it comes down to what your interpretation of both teams is going to be. And if it's not a super rainy night, then I'm sorry, Tom Brady's going to pick apart your defense. It doesn't matter what Matthew Judon's doing, generating pressure. You're going to be put in a situation where Mac Jones is down double digits with a mediocre receiving core late in the fourth quarter and is more prone to make a mistake than give you a backdoor cover. And so I really liked that game, and I thought it was unfortunate that Tampa wasn't up more, and that game was kept close by questionable officiating.
Yeah, I fully agree. It was sometimes when I'm downstairs, the rest of the family is upstairs at those nights, especially like a Penn State game or the 8:00 game with Tampa. And, I'm told that I start ranting. Like I'm talking to myself, basically. I'm screaming at the TV. And sometimes I find myself actually screaming at a ref, not screaming, but, going like, what the shit was that? And it's actually in my favor because I have the other team. So I'm beginning to question my psyche, I guess, but you know what it is in all seriousness is that the refereeing has regressed, and they are making some just ridiculous calls. And
happens every day, every game.
My God. In the Indiana game at Penn State, I was watching the condensed version later. In the Auburn game, they had intentional grounding, which was never intentional grounding. Mm-hmm. The ball landed in the middle of the field, and the receiver cut off and did a posting in instead of doing a vertical route. And as soon as Clifford let go of it, he cut to the middle of the field because that's what the receiver read from the defense. All right. Intentional grounding. Well, that wasn't bad enough. Is that the chain gang got it wrong, and they only had 3 downs, and they were on the Auburn 42-yard line. it almost happened again in Indiana. Almost happened again. It wasn't intentional grounding, but suddenly it was. I don't even know what caused this one, but right away, within a minute, they caught it and actually changed it.
Yeah, and I'll say from the standpoint of being non-traditional, I love review. I say use it. I say there's too much money invested in these games to get stuff wrong and continue. VAR frustrates the hell out of me in soccer often because I'll lose out on a goal because the guy was a millimeter offside. But hell, if he was a millimeter offside and you can see it on video, shouldn't be a goal. And even though it cost me, at least they're getting it right. Baseball innings that continue because of obvious missed strikes. We got Joe West and Angel Hernandez on the same docket tonight.
It is a docket. It was well said.
Just infuriating. And finally, so then you have the element of the game, the strategy element of the game, where I don't know if you were watching Chiefs Eagles, the fumble that Andy Reid didn't challenge, and the Eagles kind of suspected it was a fumble and rushed to the line and got the playoff. Well, that's on Andy Reid.
Absolutely.
Good thing it didn't come back to bite him because I was on the Chiefs. But the fact is that you have to be on the ball, and that's sports in 2020. So you utilize reviews, utilize your challenges. If you mess up on a challenge early, the way you do in football or in basketball, and you lose your challenge, you don't have your challenge because you messed up. I love that element of the game. I don't mind that at all, and I think we should use technology. And I'll get off my soapbox that.
Yeah, it's similar to like when you watch the U.S. Open in tennis, New York City there, and I mean they do it everywhere, but especially there. And then a serve is challenged, and then the crowd gets into it, and then they show it like magnified, 1,000 times. And how wide are those stripes? An inch and a half?
Yeah, right.
An inch, and it's just showing just like the fuzz on the ball was hitting the line.
Yeah. And
I find that amazing.
I'm all about that. I really love it.
Who is behind the plate tonight? Because you just got me to check that too. Because that's kind of. I have Mark Carlson behind the plate.
Carlson?
Yeah.
Oh well, that's good. At least Hernandez and West are only doing out safe calls. Good Lord.
Aaron Boone would lose his.
Oh no, that was the other day when he was calling balls and strikes. Yeah. Well.
I mean, no offense to those guys, but I'm gonna get sick if any of the announcers, I don't know if this is on Fox or not, but that would be Joe Buck, who has gotten a lot better in my opinion. And years ago, I couldn't stand listening to it, but father and son combo. I mean, there's nobody better. But
let me double check this, but I think that I was wrong. Angel Hernandez will be. And Joe West are on tomorrow's game, not tonight's.
Oh, so that's okay.
And Joe West is the home plate umpire.
Oh, God.
And this is the direct quote. It's from ESPN. West will umpire at least one more game. He'll be at Dodger Stadium for the National League wildcard contest between the Dodgers and Cardinals. Asked if he'll be behind the plate, West answered in his true Maverick style. We're not supposed to say, but I am. What a jackass. Jeez. What an absolute jackass. So at least we know.
Wow, that's narcissistic.
Yeah.
Holy moly. We're not supposed to say. Well, I guess he's fortunately retiring after this game or after the playoff season.
Tony appreciates it though. It'll save him his legwork, pregame legwork. They'll know going in.
Yeah, he's I just want to see how he has been because he's been inconsistent. That we already know that.
I mean, but the thing is, and then I know you do this, and I do this, and people may not appreciate like that little nugget of information. Then allows you to say, all right, what's Adam Wainwright's history in games that Joe West officiates behind the plate? Ditto with Max Scherzer, and there's a substantial history, and then you can make a little bit of a determination just on that, and that's not the end all be all. Certainly not the one reason why you would make a pick. But it helps. Every little nugget of information helps.
It sure does. And my database doesn't even have the umpire information loaded in. But I just wanted to see what his record was this year with being the home plate umpire. Who's the guy? Wilson. He's incredibly good with home teams. They're like 8-0 this year, and like his career, it's close to 62 or 63%. And that,
Yeah, all that stuff, when it accumulates, you might not even notice as it's going on, early in the season, but once you're doing late, and again, NBA is my area of most expertise. Like that, they look at those numbers, like the review boards late in the season, just to see, who's calling the most fouls, who's on the overs, who's on unders. Typically, we see the unders, the same guys every year. They're veteran refs that let you play a little more. The ref shows that have the overs, usually the younger guys.
Yep. So let's move on to show best bets. Why don't we?
All right.
I guess I could do a couple here, but obviously I gave out Nebraska today. I gave out the detail on Nebraska. I did not give out this angle though. Betting on home teams using the money line and hosting a foe that has covered the spread by 42 or more points over their last 5 games. That indicates a regression because you can't keep that pace up. With the game taking place in week 6, 7, or 8, because obviously we are looking at the first 5 games, and that's the first requirement. The last 5 games not going back to the previous season or a previous bowl game. So essentially half the season of the regular season. That's earned an 18-8 record for 68% winning bets. But you say, well, what's so great about that? Well, keep in mind, this is a money line bet. The set of parameters has averaged a plus 215 money line wager. If a dime better bet on all 26 of these games, he'd be up over $27,000 over the last 5 seasons. So my recommendation in my video was to bet Nebraska money line plus 150 and higher. If not, then just take the points.
All right, that's a good one.
So that's the scoop there. And then tonight, I don't have really I think we're gonna have to classify it as a pizza money bet because I'll write this down too so I remember. Rob Vino yesterday, since he wasn't gonna be on today, under 4.5, first 5. And then assuming that these are, 3-unit bets, I will throw the pizza money bet on for no more than 1 unit in game. If the total number of runs scored at the end of 5 innings is 3 or fewer, I will bet pizza money on the in-game over, which I'm guessing is probably going to be 5.5. I think it's going to be tough to get a market at 4.5, especially if the game's 3-0. Because then those are the situations I think where historically the game can get away from the team that is losing.
Gotcha.
And ends up being 10-2. But I'll be trying to tweet it, that's for sure. Oh, I did an in-game NFL show on Sunday.
Oh, you did? How'd that go?
I don't know what got into me, but I said I was, sitting around at home and I was thinking, I ought to try it. And I gave out Jets plus 4.5 at the half. And even though the Giants were down, and shortly into the third quarter, as it was 21-10, the halftime in-game line was plus 7.5. And I said, I think we need to wait a little bit, see what happens here. If I remember right, the Saints were getting the second half kick and scored. And it made it 21-10, which then I guess some people, got probably 10.5, or at least 9.5. It certainly was higher than 8.5, but I counted it as 8.5 because that's what I said. And, lo and behold, the Giants win. Giants, I think, did you say it yesterday or the day before? Or the Giants and the Jets both won, which is, that's an anomaly right there.
Right.
But they both won in overtime.
I bet that hasn't happened very often on the same weekend.
Whew. Not two teams in the same geographical area that are just not all that
those
good.
In particular, they're tied together the way nobody else is. You're playing in the same stadium and sharing back pages.
And we talked about the Jesse Scholl on the NFL show today, and we do an NFL show on Thursdays too, with some other Sports Memo personalities. Again, following the Wager Talk model, we're certainly not competing, but Jesse Scholl gave out a pick on Atlanta over the Jets over there in Wembley Stadium in London, which starts, I think, at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in these shows we don't get into the back and forth like we do here in the Manny's Pub, so that makes it good. But I'm interested to see. I won't have anything on the game, but the Jets. If you take a look at their first 3 games, those 3 defenses that they played were stout, and you can only play against who's assigned to on your schedule.
Sure.
And sure, you can say Denver.
My free best bet is on the Jets and Falcons. Actually,
I think they're better than they could be. Grossly undervalued. As ridiculous as that sounds, we got to remember back last year. With Sam Darnold was the quarterback. They beat Seattle as 14.5-point home dogs. That was one of the big picks that I think Las Vegas Chris will never forget, because everybody in the world was on Seattle, and they were on Seattle in that contest. And that was a pick that allowed him to jump over many, many people in those final weeks. I think that was the second to last week. And then they beat somebody else in the final. No, it was weeks 14 and 15, whatever that was. 14, I think, was Seattle. And then they beat another playoff team the very next week. So if you tie those together, now you have a quarterback who I think has, is markedly better. They're not all that far away from being like a 500 team. And 500 in the NFL, you're a contender to like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, well,
I guess that's not true.
Yeah, but no, you're the right thing. Hold on, let me see. It wasn't the Seahawks that they beat; it was the Rams.
Oh, in New York, it was the Rams.
They beat the Rams and the Browns back-to-back weeks 15 and 16. That's it. And they had they came off the 40-3 loss in Seattle, so nobody saw that coming. The next week, they won at SoFi 23-20 over the Rams in week 15, and then in week 16 they beat the Browns outright at home 27-20. I wouldn't have remembered that either. I'm just looking at it. But they so
it was the Browns game. I was remembering.
Jets entered that Rams game as a 17-point underdog and led 13-3 at the half. That might have been the end of the Jared Goff era for all intents and purposes.
I know the adage is that professional sports bettors such as ourselves will always gravitate towards that double-digit underdog in the NFL, but I was on Buffalo this past week, right. And sometimes it is hard because you have that in the back of your head that what am I doing?
No, that's
but
true.
that was just complete mismatch.
But that's why you can get thrown off by the numbers, because I looked at it and I said, wow, 17.5. I said, I got it at 15-5, and I don't like their whole situation. I do respect Buffalo, but that's just a lot because these are pros. And, the fact is that, the Texans have had more practice time than they did the week prior. And if Buffalo takes their foot off the gas, then I could see a backdoor. But no, it was never close. I actually won on the under with that. I just thought 47 was too high and it wouldn't be competitive. But I chose not to lay the 17.5, and it was probably the easiest cover outside of the slow start that Buffalo had. They ended up winning 40-0.
Yeah, I mean, it was 16 at the half, and then they kicked a field goal in the third, and it just kind of then was like, okay, I'm not watching the scoreboard anymore because it's going to drive me nuts if they don't cover this.
Yeah.
But then
dicey with the total a little late because they kept running up the score. But then it ended.
So your free pick then. I know there truly is only one game tonight.
Right. We're gonna look because I'll probably be on the show Thursday, so I'll give out a different pick on Thursday. But considering that there is only one candidate for the ratchet game for week 5 in the NFL this Sunday, and it's the New York Jets and Atlanta Falcons at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. And I already checked some London weather, and it's going to be okay.
Sunshiny.
It's 9:30 for us. For them, it's early afternoon into the evening, or late afternoon into the evening. And the weather's going to be
2:30, I think.
It's an open air stadium. I'm going to take the over as my ratchet game pick. I do the ratchet videos for those who don't know. Wager Talk puts them out on their feed as well, and then I put them out. Make sure that everybody sees them. But I picked a game, and I started this when I joined the company last year with the rationale that all these games, yes, there are games like Seattle and the Rams that are can't miss, and we always enjoy the America's Game of the Week, but they all pay out the same. And even the ones that only grandmothers are watching, they'll pay out. The players' grandmothers, I should say. But yeah, this Falcons and Jets game is actually going to have a lot of eyeballs on it because of the time slot that it's in at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, because it's being played out in England. So here's my rationale on that. And I normally have a script because it's a two-minute spiel on why we're betting what we're betting. But just early returns. Jamison Crowder returning for the Jets last week after being unavailable made such a huge difference for Zach Wilson. And they still don't have Mekhi Becton back, the top offensive tackle. But he was better protected. He looked to be in a much better rhythm against Tennessee, and that was an impressive win because Tennessee was without two of their top wide receivers, obviously, in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. But that doesn't have anything to do with the defense. And Wilson settled in and was able to make plays to Crowder, to Corey Harris, formerly of the Titans. That must have been a sweet touchdown for him late, to give you some hope if you're a New York Jets fan. And as far as Atlanta is concerned, Cordero Patterson has turned into a real weapon. They've got Mike Davis now playing a little better. So all of a sudden, their running back situation looks great. Calvin Ridley, who's gotten off to a slow start, was targeted a lot more by Matt Ryan last week. And again, that was a game that their defense lost, not their offense. Their offense got on track, should have won that game. And the Jets had so many losses defensively this preseason of guys that they were counting on that it's not a stout Jets defense. So the number actually agrees with me, and I hadn't even looked at it. My number I put on the game was 3.5, 47. It opened 4 and 44. So Atlanta laying 4 and 44. The current line is 3 and 46. So when I look at, and this is what I do this with all the games are right here before I look at a line. That's just the way I do things. It allows me to go into a thought process because of the way I do things, where my initial numbers, I'm the odds maker. I want you to bet on this game based on the right number, because if I give you a discount, you're just going to jump all over it. Then I'll do my actual prediction on the game. Then I'll look at the game and see, are there any corners that can be cut? Because these odds makers, when they're making the number, they don't know who got hurt last week. They're just doing it on general better. This is the number, and then we'll adjust it throughout the week to get it right on both sides. So this tells me that 44 entirely too low, and maybe they're looking at the Jets early in the season and calling Zach Wilson's performance this past week against the Titans an aberration. I don't think it is. Atlanta against Washington, same thing. Washington, supposed to be one of the better defenses, has gotten carved up by everybody, including Ryan last week. So sharp bettors apparently agreeing, because the money, 93% is on the over. I'm going to be on the over, so let's give it to you now. You can still get 45.5 at South Point, 46 everywhere else, Circa, Westgate, DraftKings. Don't know if there are any 45.5s out there, but the line's already moved from the opening number at 44. I think the line movement is correct. I bet the over in Jets in Atlanta from jolly old England.
Love it. I like that play too, because I like the contrarian nature of it. Because I think everybody will be public will be betting the under. But the other interesting part is when these two teams come back, we've seen with Jacksonville, whose second home stadium is Wembley over the years.
Yeah.
it takes an impact. So neither of these
they give them the bye,
anything, but
they give them the bye immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, both teams will have bye weeks coming back in time.
You know what I'll do? That'll be an interesting thing to run for tomorrow's show, because you're on tomorrow, I think, or Thursday.
I'm on Thursday.
Thursday.
Tomorrow, probably not.
All right, so Thursday we'll save this topic for coming off the London bye.
Yeah, because we didn't have it last year, but we've had it every year since what, like 15, 16?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's not going to be a big sample size, but at least we can see what happens.
Yeah. No.
Max on record, to answer your question, the MIT mascot, embarrassingly enough, is Tim the Beaver. To answer your question about MIT.
Related to Punxsutawney Phil somehow?
He looks like him.
Okay.
I say with all due respect. I think you can do a Google search and you can see something that's pretty funny. But again, comes to mind, Washington football team. What's wrong with the Washington Beavers? Who cares if the Beavers aren't in Washington and the District of Columbia? There's not many wild animals in the District of Columbia to begin with.
You know what there are in the District of Columbia? Red hogs.
Is that right? Red hogs. No, it sounds like a Philadelphia cheesesteak. The Red Hog cheesesteak from Philadelphia.
Feel that the Angry Pandas or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, I have that picture still. That'd be a great mascot. And that was your recommendation.
Yes. Well, that should be everybody's mascot.
Here he is. Here he is. There he is.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that guy. I mean, he looks like you could walk up and pet him, and then suddenly you're missing your whole hand.
He looks like he'll be. Yeah, he's digging through trash, and you're.
Yeah.
A trash compactor near you.
Yeah, wild animals don't bother me. I hike every day on some, pretty hilly terrain, and one place is pretty mountainous terrain. And let me get rid of this little fella here. Manny, as I just said, is my Red Fox lab. We're kind of cruising along, and then all of a sudden, I got next to this pretty large copperhead. And, as my dad used to say, that usually puts nicotine in the shorts.
Yeah, that would.
But that didn't happen, but it did alarm me, because then what happens is your mind's on it, and they're more afraid of you than anything. If you startle them and you're right on top of them, of course they're going to bite you. But they move out of the way pretty quick. And this guy was just off on the side. I'm sure he was asleep, and that was it. It gets your attention, but then the rest of the hike, you're looking like this, side to side. You're surveying, looking for another one. But anyway,
no, I'm getting as far away from that place as possible. I'm running a mile, and then I'll slow down again for my hike. Snakes are the one thing that I'm phobic about. And
if you're running, you won't get bitten. Copperheads like rocks. That was so weird with this. Like, I guess they can go anywhere, but they like crevices. They like being able to, sit around those and then trap their prey. I mean, they're not going to try to eat a human. I mean, it's not like an anaconda. But if you get bit by one, you go right to the hospital. One other question was to fill my ego. Max on record asked how many rounds, which is greater. Number of 300 games or rounds under 70.
Oh, for you?
Probably the 300 games, but rounds under par, I'd have to think it's pretty close. Like par or under, I think, would be pretty close. But I haven't shot par or under probably in 3 years, one of which was COVID. And now my golfing career is doing these shows. So I might go up to the range after this show and hit some balls, but you gotta really practice and practice and practice to maintain like even a 2 handicap. It's got to be just about every day. And you don't take your driver. You leave your driver in the trunk, your 3-wood in the trunk. Anything that is a metal head on it, you leave in the trunk. And you take your 7, 8, 9 iron and your wedges, and you hit about 200 balls, zeroing in on the yardages, especially that 100-yard shot. If you can make the 80 and 100-yard shot a better part of your game, you'll drop you'll lose 8 to 10 shots quicker doing it that way than going to the range with your driver just to see how far you can hit it. And I have no idea. The other question was from somebody else, like how long is my longest drive? Not as long as Tiger can hit it, not as long as DeChambeau can hit it, and not as long as 2 of my kids can hit it. My oldest boy, legitimately, Ryan, can hit it 350. And I'm not exaggerating. I know there's dads out there that say, hey, my son can do this. And
right.
My son is 10 years old and throws 75 miles an hour. But honest to God, he was a baseball player. So, I mean, it stands to reason. But when he catches one, it makes that sound that's so different. And I become jealous because I should have been born later so I could take advantage of this technology. My clubs are probably – I have a 5-wood, Tony, that is, I think, bought in 2000. It's a Titleist. I have never had a hybrid club. And every time I try a hybrid club, I can take one out and try around with it. My 5-wood is still better. I like the feel. I could literally play a round of golf if the course was short enough with that 5-wood. I could hit the 5-wood for a drive, go out in the fairway from 150 yards to 200 yards, use the same club, and it's fun to play that way. Do you play?
No, I played, but when I played younger, which is when I would have gotten into it, I was way more into basketball to the point where I played every day, and messing around with the golf club for whatever reason, it aggravated my back. And so it did it a couple of times. I said, well, I don't want anything to do with this because it's keeping me from playing basketball. Just whatever it is I was swinging, it was aggravating something in my back. And then, I've swung a golf club badly at like a Top Golf or something. But no, not at all a golfer.
Yeah, it's hard on your back, no question. I've been lucky not to have any injuries like that at all. But anyway,
all right. Well,
the chat room too. When Chuck was on, it was probably because Chuck was on and he looked so like enthusiastic for like a pharmacist. Usually, like you go to a pharmacy and you look at the pharmacist and with all due respect, they're very intelligent people, but sometimes you go to the right one and you're wondering whether he's stoned and whether he's going to actually get the order right. But that's far and few in between. But the chat room was trying to come up with a nickname for me. And not, a nasty one. Like Max on record says Poppy.
Poppy?
Poppy. Well, I mean,
Poppy
everybody's entitled to their...
Poppy from Seinfeld?
I have no idea, but I don't think I need a nickname.
Well, you don't need a nickname. I'm one of those people. I don't have a nickname. People call me T, I guess.
Yeah, you should change your name. Like we have F and Tony, and then tomorrow you just should put T when you log in, or right. Thursday just put T -- at Mejia De Niro. That would be pretty funny, and then we'll see how long it takes Finn to realize that you changed your name.
Maybe I will. If I'm on Thursday, I'll remember to do that.
I like that T.
That's it.
All right, so
before we get out of here,
we got our place done.
We got our place.
I'll let you go. Thanks for your time. And
last bit of
news, Tony.
Yeah, lineups around for this AL wildcard game. A little bit of a surprise. Anthony Rizzo leading off for the Yankees. It's been Gleyber Torres of late. And the Yankees have taken, and I like this, Rougned Odor out of the lineup, even though he was the catalyst in that comeback. Andrew Velasquez, the good luck charm, the kid out of the Bronx, out of Fordham, in at shortstop playing and batting ninth. Higashioka's in. Gary Sanchez is not in the lineup. So the Yankees are going with pitching and defense to get out of the AL wildcard game. Rizzo, Judge, Stanton, Gallo, Torres, Gardner, Urshela, Higashioka, and Velasquez. That's your Yankees lineup. Boston, you mentioned earlier, no JD Martinez. They're going with Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Kike batting second. Devers, Bogarts, Verdugo, Renfroe, and then their bottom of the order, same thing. Looks very ordinary with Plawecki, Dahlbeck, and Christian Arroyo. So certainly underbackers got to like those lineups if they got in on 8.5.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, Tony, thanks for your time. Appreciate it as always. We'll see you Thursday here at the Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show. And on behalf of Tony and myself, Sports Memo, Wager Talk, and these shows, may all the wins be yours tonight. Thanks for watching, guys.